Hi, friends. Hello. Welcome to today's episode of Things I Wish I Knew About with our very special guest, Ashleigh Scott. Hi, Ashleigh.
Hi, babes. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much.
She's so excited to be
Thank you for
here.
having me here. Feels like my old home.
It's
Settling
true.
back in.
And we can talk about that actually
hmm
and why Ashleigh is here. So, brief overview, Ashleigh and I met randomly actually. We have a lot of similarities
Yes,
in our
we
lives.
do. It's very what's the word? Syntist or something?
Oh my God,
No,
she's got to go. All right,
no.
well, that's all the time.
Sorry, guys.
That was it.
Time out.
She messed
All
up.
right,
That
let's get to
we met actually through our friend Amy at a farm one time.
Yes, we did.
Remember? And we had the
Yep.
same jewelry
Yeah,
on.
we did. I
We,
still wear it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
can't find mine, but we had the same jewelry
yeah,
that it was from our mothers
yeah.
who both passed away, who share a birthday.
Yeah.
So
It's
bizarre.
very weird. And I think I always tell people about our first meeting because you wouldn't normally have a conversation like that with someone you just
No,
met.
no.
Like it's kind of a weird thing to just be like it literally went like,
Hey, do
oh
you
my
have mine?
God, I love that necklace. I have the same bracelet. And I was like, oh my God, my mom gave me mine. My mom gave me mine. And I was like, my mom's dead. No, my mom's dead. Like, who talks like that?
It was so
It's
bizarre.
very weird. And it was instantly like, I've always felt, and we've said this before, that our moms are like up there just like pulling the
Pulling some
strings, you
strings
know?
for sure. Yeah, because it ended up that Ashleigh did the photography for my cookbook.
I did.
We can, but let's get into that in a minute. So why don't you just give people a brief. So today, before we start, we're going to be talking about kind of a mishmash of things. We're going to talk about photography. We're going to talk about kind of food blogging, how you got into that, where you started, all of the things that are Ashleigh Scott. And then if people are kind of interested in any of those things, hopefully that's helpful and we can give them a little bit of info
We can do
about
that.
all of your eclectic life. So why don't you give people
Very
just like
mishmashed.
a brief overview of maybe like kind of maybe start at modeling, how you kind of started in
Yeah,
the industry,
we
and
could
then
start with that. Do you
and
want to just put
then
a pin in it while you let your dog in, or?
this is just how it's gonna go.
Yeah, all right. He's always trying to steal my thunder.
I know.
You're prettier than me. We know it.
I know.
Okay, so gosh, I don't know where to start.
So you started kind of in the industry
Yeah, so
around cameras.
yeah, I've always lived a very unstable, self-employed life, unfortunately for my husband. Definitely a creative-minded person. I always wanted to be a makeup artist. That was my goal from a very young age. I was kind of artistic in school and just, I don't know, it's not like I was a girly girl, I don't think.
Me neither. I love
No,
makeup too, though.
but I really, yeah, I wouldn't say I was like necessarily like one of those like, some girls are like dancers and they like have to learn to do that. I never did any of that, but I remember being in like high school. I went to performing arts high school and we would like sit in the stairwell, do each other's makeup with like terrible MAC products, freeze lipstick and
Glass.
oh gosh,
Your
yeah.
hair got stuck.
It really did. Terrible, terrible concept.
I
I don't
had
know who
Oyster
invented
Girl. That was
Yeah,
mine.
that was a good one. It was good. It made you look a little dead, but just a bit. Yeah. So I definitely like loved the makeup element of the industry. And then I think it was around the age of 15. I'm freakishly tall, not as much as Stacey.
Not as
She
freakishly.
wins. That's the only reason I'm friends with her is to make me feel a little more normal. But I was, quite tall, 5'11", and I came back from grade and I was always a little on the curvier side. So even though I was tall, modeling was never really something I considered. And then I came back in grade 10 and I'd kind of shot up and kind of like thinned out a bit and just lost some of the baby fat, I guess, And people started saying, oh, you should model. And I was like, that's ridiculous. And then my mom was like, well, why don't we just, see,
Give it a shot.
give it a shot. And I was like, okay. So we went to some open casting call that was like garbage.
Sutherland Mall.
Yes. No, it wasn't. That would have been cool. That would have been bougie. This was like Diane's basement models or something, some terrible, like, probably a ripoff, really. And my mom and I sat there and we both looked at each other and we're like, what are we doing here? Like, this is not
For us.
this is not where we want to be. And I feel like this is getting really long-winded. Okay, I'm going to speed it up. Modeling just kind of, that didn't work for me. We left. And I said, if I really want to model, I'm going to just like call an agency that's a real name. And then they can tell me straight up, hit the bricks.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't say hit the bricks, but they did inform me that at the time, because things have changed, I was too big to be a model.
Right.
I wasn't even that. I was probably about a size 10 at the time.
Oh my God. 10 is a
And-
dream.
Yeah.
Size 10 is like, oh, I'm so fit right now.
No, I literally had just lost like 25 pounds too. And I was like, there's no more weight to lose. Like, this is it. And I honestly went to go hang up the phone because I just called in. And they were like, well, don't hang up, don't hang up. There's an agency called Plus Figure Models.
Oh my goodness.
Back then, they just laid it all out there. There was no guising it. And I was like, it's funny. I look back and I'm like, those are those moments in life where you could either be like it could go either way. Like I could have been really mad
Yeah.
and been like, "Ugh, I'm not clipping a mono. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. But I really was like, well, okay, sure. It means I don't have to lose weight. And so I went to an open casting call there, and
Right.
they signed me pretty much right away. And
then you were in front.
then I was yeah, I was in front of the camera for a very long time. I was a model from literally the age of 15. I think that helped with the whole makeup thing.
Yeah, did that spark?
It kind of did spark it even more. And I
you would
think
have been exposed to just
Yeah.
so many different styles.
Yeah,
of
it
makeup
did.
and-
And it was really cool because it did help me inform kind of like a vision for um the industry and like how things operate and how you handle yourself on set and how you
Did you
know
go to school for makeup?
I ended up yeah, so I moved to New York to model for a few years. Didn't make it. Surprise,
She,
surprise.
guys, that's a bullshit lie. You still model.
I don't know, but I didn't make it really in New York.
Yeah,
New York kicked
she's
my
not Kate Moss.
yeah, New
But
York
she-
kicked my
Your
butt.
northern reflection.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
suck on that, Kate.
No, right? I have totally had the last laugh. But yeah, so I just came home and I thought, you know what, I want to actually be a makeup artist.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, especially being in New York, you get exposed to
I'm
so much cool stuff, and you're like, oh, I could actually, this is kind of a cool career.
And then you went to school in Toronto?
Yeah, I did complexions, which was a makeup artist
Okay.
academy, and I originally wanted to do special effects.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I realized I didn't have the temperament for it. We were having to do like
those are long days.
dirty hands or something like that, and it was hours of like placing dirt in
Yeah.
the nails and the consistency of it. Like
Right.
you really have to make sure everything looks the same
Yeah.
way. Not my thing. So I ended up just wanting to do fashion, and I bailed out of the program early, and then I got hired at Mac like the next day. It was literally a little too easy.
And then you started working TV shows, City?
Yeah, yeah.
TV?
Throughout over the years, I kept modeling, and then eventually kind of got an opportunity to be in front of the camera, which I kind of always had a knack for improv and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I started doing on camera stuff, and oh my God, this is so long-winded, guys. Can we start over? Is that an option? Okay, maybe put a disclaimer at the front to run this at like 2.5 speed, and I'll just sound like a hamster or something.
Start listening at
Yeah,
5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
7 seconds.
Unless you want to hear the most long-winded story. But this is how we are. This is the problem. We forget. Anyways, so yeah, I transitioned into TV stuff and kind of had that as a background, but then it's like you never really know it never really felt like the right fit. I kind of felt like something was off, and I kind of felt like, I was round peg square hole kind of thing. Like I just couldn't find my footing, and things would happen and it would like knock me off course. And I realize now that all of those things kind of helped get me to where I am at this point.
For sure. I think that's just kind of like, I wish honestly I could go back in time to like high school Stacey, who thought that a career had to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer. Like in my head, I was like, I'm going to be a teacher.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
what I'm going to do. That's one of those things.
Yeah.
But really, in hindsight, it's like you could do fucking
I
anything.
know. And that's
anything you want.
it is crazy
And
to
it
think.
informs all of your future decisions.
Yeah.
It's not like you fail at something. It's just like, oh, you tried this and then pivot. It's hey,
Calibrate.
You recalibrate your life.
So true. It's funny because when I first thought about moving to New York, my agent sat me down and was like, I got an agent in New York. He's interested in you. And I was like, what, really? And I always wanted to live in New York. Always did. My dad thought he was going to have to like pay for like Columbia University or something, trying to figure out how to sell organs on the internet or whatever. I literally was like, I want to move to New York. And he was like, I was like, but I have to go to university. He's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be a makeup artist. He's like, you need to go to university to be a makeup artist.
For what?
And it was a really weird moment where I was like, I guess I don't need university. Yeah. But all my life, I thought that was just, those were that's the path that you chose.
I did the same thing. I went to Guelph for 2 years, and then I ran out of money, and I was like, do I want to be a drama teacher? Like, that was what I thought. I was like, I like to act. I like to be, like perform and whatever. And I had to teach because
you're gonna have to rename this episode "Things I Wish I Knew When I Was Like 15" or whatever.
True. Things I wish I knew, just really about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you do that. You're in front of the camera. You're behind the camera. You're doing makeup. You're on set a lot of the time. And then 2020 hits.
Yeah, 2020 hits.
Yeah.
And
had you picked up a camera before that?
No, not really.
Okay.
I hadn't. And that was funny thing because I remember being on set and having no concept. Even though I'd had the camera on me my whole life, I had no idea what they were doing other than like, oh, that flash didn't fire. Like I knew that much. I could tell the light didn't go off.
Right.
But I didn't know why it didn't go off.
Yeah.
I didn't understand, why we had the lights. I didn't know what they did. Like I've been around it for so long, I should have figured it out. But I never did. I just, it was one of those things where it's actually kind of embarrassing to admit, like I had no concept. And then,
but that wasn't your job.
It wasn't, but I do feel like through osmosis, I probably should have picked a few things up, and maybe
Listen,
maybe I
I
did.
think you did.
Maybe I did. So it wasn't until 2020 when everyone was just like, stuck at home. You were making cool videos, and
Was I just
you
Trudeau
were.
videos? Did it?
Yeah, I started baking like everyone did as like a felt, form of like
I did not.
therapy.
Baking is a
No.
skill I do not have. I'm a
Yeah.
great baker, guys. I don't have.
Well, it's funny because I never really, I mean, I like baked a little bit my whole life. And I do feel like when you're naturally good at something, well, or at least for myself, there's that effortlessness that
Mhm.
happens. Like I even remember being a makeup artist and like being like, how am I going to pull myself out of this? Like I'd done something that just wasn't
Yeah,
working,
yeah,
It's almost like an out of body experience. Like
yeah,
something else takes over and
yeah.
you just figure it out.
Hmm.
And then you're like, oh my God, I fixed that winged eyeliner. Like they were not matching and now they are. Okay, cool. And I do think with baking, I never thought of it, but there was a level of like, I could just kind of figure it out and it
Yeah.
kind of worked. And then I found out later, which is silly, but my mom's mom, who had passed long before I was ever born, weirdly, my mom lost her mom when she was younger too. So
Oh,
it's
that's
a
the worst.
terrible, terrible family genetic history here.
Yeah.
But so I never knew my grandma, but she was one, she had 9 kids before she passed. And she also ran a baking
Oh,
business in Trinidad.
genetic.
Yeah, in Trinidad. So she was like making wedding cakes and all this stuff. So my mom was a really great baker, but I never really did it until COVID. And then I was just like, what else am I
I have
doing?
time.
What
Yeah.
else am I doing? And then it kind of was like I picked up my phone and I'd start like, taking pictures of it and being like, why doesn't this look good? It doesn't look like that person's photo,
Right.
when you're scrolling on
For sure.
Instagram. And
Oh, do I?
I didn't understand why. I was like, but I didn't know about light. I didn't understand
Were you
about.
taking it with a camera?
No, I was
With your
using
phone?
my phone at
Okay.
first, and then I decided to fish out like an old camera, like a DSLR that I'd had for a long time. I
Hmm.
think I got it when my daughter was like born or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll try using this or whatever.
Guys, back in the day, if you're a young listener, we had to upload our photos
Yes,
always
we did.
from a
From
card
a card
into a thing. It
into a
was a
kid.
whole thing.
Like I have no pictures of my kid, my oldest, who's 15, on my computer because
Nothing.
I have no idea where they are.
Same.
One on a disc
Photos of
somewhere. I have no idea. There's nothing relevant.
no.
But I had a camera and but I didn't understand anything about shooting in manual. So that's something that most people don't understand is like a DSLR camera. There's an auto setting and then there's a manual setting.
Yeah.
And a manual setting is a whole other
For
ball of
sure.
wax. And so I just started watching YouTube videos. And I got to be honest, guys, anytime you need to learn something, as you well know,
Oh my God.
YouTube is your friend.
My
And
entire website is YouTube.
yeah,
Everything.
it is. And anytime you really get to a point where you're like, there's usually somebody that's gone at the same time as you and can help you
100%.
through it. So I literally just started watching very basic videos about,
How to use my camera.
yeah, ISO versus aperture versus like the triangle and like, your exposure meter and all this stuff, like I just started tinkering around with it. And even now that I do the job, I still, I have people that are like, would you train me? And I'm like, I feel like I'm still learning always,
Of course.
like obviously you're always learning, but I do think possibly having that background made it a little more good.
Do you think that's why you got into it? Like I love photography. I bought a camera a while ago. I love to take nice photos, but I never got into like the technical
Yeah, I didn't
side of
expect
it.
myself to like the technical side of it. And
Yeah.
actually, my husband would marvel at me that I would just sit there and watch these because some of the videos can be very long-winded.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, information in there, terms
Yeah.
and, gadgets and gear and, numbers, and which isn't really my strong suit. And I'm not really a numbers person, but I think, I don't know. It's like I said before, round peg, square hole. I finally felt like something was clicking.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what I've been looking for, And guys, I was 40. It took me a real long time to get there. How many careers that I had? God, we could count, like
God, honestly.
too many,
But they're all still kind of in the same creative, artistic photography, not, front and behind.
Yeah. And
vein.
I think it just took a while to get there. But
Yeah.
you know what? Slow and steady, right?
So then you started taking pictures over COVID and then just posting them yourself on your page. You created
I created an Instagram page with no real thought about what it would mean. I will say that I think so many people are like myself and you feel like you have to have a clear plan.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a plan, you can't do the thing.
For sure.
And you really have to just go, screw the plan.
There
is no plan.
No, you got to build shit on the way down.
Because things will evolve naturally.
Yeah.
I think, and you'll find your footing as you go. And it's better to just start somewhere than sit there and look at nothing.
Perfect. Yeah.
Because I really didn't have any expectation when I started my first account. I think was just God, I don't, Ashleigh's Bakeover. I
Oh,
called it Ashleigh's Bakeover because I'd had obviously a makeup artist, and then I
look
was
at that. What play on
play on
words.
words.
And did you create a blog?
No, I never created a blog because I had a blog as a makeup artist and I really despised it.
Okay.
And the WordPress thing, and that's something I just don't
I
have a
hated
great,
WordPress.
acceptance. I'm not great with that stuff. So I really felt like I didn't want to blog. I knew I didn't want to blog, but I thought I could handle an Instagram. Again, we're talking palatable, like things that are easily that I can take on small chunks,
Yep.
To me, a blog felt too big. So I eventually made an Instagram page, and then I found a community, and I think that was huge.
Where did you find them?
I don't know. I just found them on Instagram. They
Like you just started following
I started
people, or
following people, and genuinely some of my closest friends are from this industry, and half of them I've never met in real
yeah, I'm
life.
sure they live in the States.
One of my best friends is in New York and Long Island. She's like decades younger than me. Which probably it doesn't even make sense, like how. But it's like I find what a gift, that
Yeah.
that this. So even when
Shared interest,
Instagram
yeah.
is terrible, and it is terrible in so many ways, it's
Yeah.
just sucks the life out of you sometimes. I just always remember I've gotten this really incredible community and support system from like one of my friends, Callan. She was the very first person I ever reached out to on Instagram, and she's still one of my closest buddies on.
And did you reach out with a question?
Yeah, I think I just because I loved her photography.
Right.
She was a little further ahead than me. She was a really excellent baker, so I would actually message her to help me with things, and she
Right.
still helps me with things
That's so nice.
when I can't figure things out on my own.
By the
Like
time-
baking, she is an excellent baker, so I'll be like, this lemon curd is soupy, and she's like, how many times have I told you need to thicken it? Why don't you listen? I'm like, I know, but how do I thicken it again?
So then how did you kind of start like making it into a career? How did you monetize?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And again, I didn't really have a hope for that. I mean, obviously,
You just
it was
thought,
COVID. Like,
you're at home, I'm enjoying taking
Yeah.
photos, I'm learning
And-
about my camera.
yeah. And then I thought, I can't. Once I realized that I loved it as much as I did,
Yeah.
I felt this like intense need to make it financially viable because I really didn't want to do anything else.
Right.
I should also say before COVID, I was actively auditioning for commercials.
Okay.
I had a commercial agent who was super supportive and lovely.
Because modeling is just print modeling and you wanted to get in.
And I thought I could do a commercial acting thing.
Sure.
It's hard. 5'11", not the tiniest person.
Tom
they
Cruise
kept-
is 5'5", guys.
It's not a great place
Every
for me.
leading man.
And every audition, I'd be paired with the same guy, and he would always get the role, and I wouldn't. Why do you keep putting me with him? You're not going to book us together. It was just terrible for my self-esteem. And when COVID hit, I think honestly, so it's funny because COVID was such like a terrible time, but I look at it as such a rebirth. Like
I didn't hate
so
COVID.
grateful. I didn't hate COVID at all. I'm
Honestly.
actually a really big homebody.
I know it's
I know.
a real
It's a divisive thing.
Totally, it's super
Yeah.
divisive. But River was super little. He wasn't even 2. Lou was working all the time. I literally maybe 3 weeks before COVID happened, we sat down and I said, "I'm at my. I am.
Yes.
I cannot."
Yeah.
When he was getting up 3 times a night, it was just a lot. So when it happened and she stayed home, I was like, "Holy shit!
Yeah.
This is amazing."
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
For me.
I know. It wasn't for me either. And which is, feel bad saying it out loud.
Experience,
They did,
right?
right? Like, and I was,
He was home. A lot of people.
yeah, my husband still worked, but
Yeah.
I was lucky because my daughters were 5 and 10,
Yeah.
which was literally the perfect age. Like, I really do think I hate to say it, I got so lucky because they had each other. Bond grew so strong.
Yeah.
They were best friends. I still think they're so close to this day because of that. And again, it's like, this is like maybe not the theme of this particular episode, but I do think it's about that pivot,
Yeah.
that recalibration, that like trying to turn what might look like
Trash into something great.
something
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Trying to find that stupid silver lining. And sometimes it's real difficult. And even now, sometimes it's difficult, But
So you're home.
yeah, I'm home.
You're like,
and I'm
this is
just,
what I think I want to do.
yeah. And I just thank God for you getting me back on that.
So how did you even start that process?
Yeah,
Start
I just-
Googling bloggers.
Yeah.
So people don't know this. So there is a very large blogging community of people who create recipes, write recipes, whatnot, but they don't necessarily take their own photos.
Yeah.
So they do the cooking, they do the development, they do the
Yeah.
writing, all that stuff. And then they outsource. I think they get to a point where they're large enough
Mhm.
where they outsource someone who is a professional to take all
to
the
offload the work.
the
right?
food
It is.
photography.
It is a tedious thing to take. So people don't really understand that. I make
Yeah.
all the food myself.
Yeah.
I buy the groceries. I have all the props. I have all the backdrops. I have a little studio in my basement.
For sure.
And I the recipe is developed and tested and sent to me. And then from that point, they just wait for photos to land in their inbox.
But it's a whole other world that you don't even know, right? Like some will do it themselves.
Yeah.
Bloggers will take their own photos.
Some bloggers take gorgeous photos.
For sure.
But at a certain point, there are some people, and most of the bloggers that have reached out to me are like, I just don't love that part.
Yeah.
I don't love it. I love developing recipes. I love the community. I love
that.
Yeah.
If I could do it, if I had a studio, if I had the whole set, like it is a lot. We'll get into the cookbook after, but it is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of stuff that you have.
It is a lot of stuff.
And if you don't have room for lighting and for rigs and C-stands and all that stuff, you don't want that in your house if you don't need to.
For sure.
So there are a lot of bloggers that, and people will understand, well, I don't understand how they pay for that.
Right.
Well, a lot of blogs that do well are monetized and there's ads on their websites and they're making bank and they can afford to outsource it.
They get
for them.
Sponsored
they
posts,
work hard.
Affiliate posts. There's a lot
that goes into it, right?
For sure.
So I sort of I would make recipes that, were on websites, and I was very close with the blogging community and I wanted to do something to support even my friend like Callan, or Lauren, she's a vegan blogger. And so I would make their recipes and I would post them and tag them. And it was kind of a way that you would get, it's not necessarily completely selfless. Like you hope that maybe they'll put it on their story and you support each other. Right. And so a lot of times when I would make recipes from blogs and tag them, I'd have those bloggers reach out and be like, oh, I love this photo, thanks so much. Do you shoot for bloggers? And I'd be like, actually I do. I mean, it didn't happen.
I do.
It didn't happen right away. Like, I don't want to just be like, I decided to pick up a camera and now I can shoot for blogs. It was a bit of a slow
What was your first one? Do you remember?
My first job was working for
paid.
Yes. It was working for a marketing agency.
Jesus.
But she was a smaller marketing agency and she was just really sweet. I found her through a photography school that I'd kind of semi-attended to learn the basics, and she had posted on like the forum or something looking for people, and I was like, yeah, sure. And she was like, and in the beginning she would just send me some recipes she had a few brands she had under her umbrella. She was lovely, really, really nice lady, and I credit her with a lot of confidence building because she gave me a lot of support, to just figure things out.
Yeah,
that was huge for me. Like I am very much a carrot, not the stick. Like I need that positive reinforcement. I don't do well.
You're doing great, actually.
Thank you.
You're doing great.
I appreciate it. But yeah, so I just, that was one of my first jobs. And then slowly I'd start picking up more bloggers.
And you pitch bloggers or they come to you?
No, I've never really pitched a blogger.
There
are bloggers I absolutely love. And I have thought, oh God, I would kill to shoot your recipes. One of the bloggers that I loved was going on maternity leave. And I was like, oh, I would kill because all her recipes are amazing. And I would just be like, some people just are so good at what they do. Mm-hmm. This girl's amazing. Every recipe is a star. But she's just a cyborg and does it all herself, even with like a newborn. She's one of those. So I was like, okay.
I don't understand.
I don't understand that. I couldn't even get dressed. I can't imagine doing recipe videos and photos.
Honestly, I feel like such a failure.
I know.
Like I
literally do.
I wake up and I write a to-do list of my day and then I'm like, well, I got to stop and I have children, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's it. I'm just throwing the towel and I'm like, these people.
Yeah. I don't understand it.
I
wonder what's wrong with me. Like what is my major malfunction? That I can't just do as much as other people.
We're good at other things, Ashleigh.
I don't know what that is.
So you're blogging, you're taking photos,
and
that becomes a pretty good consistent income.
Yeah, I mean,
especially over COVID.
Especially like
everybody was home.
and blogs were doing really well.
Yeah,
I think that helped too, right? Like things have definitely shifted in the last year with AI and Google updates, and I feel like the blogging community is really struggling. So if you love a blog, use it.
Yeah.
Go on their website, write a review. Like I know these people and they are so appreciative of that traffic because especially now, like I know some of them imagine a Google update coming and taking like 70% of your income for the month.
Yeah.
You had nothing to do with it. You didn't change anything.
Yeah.
You didn't change the way you test your recipes. You didn't do anything. And now nobody's seeing your recipes. It would kill me because I know I have done some recipe development for clients and it takes a lot.
It does.
Put something out there.
It's really scary. I mean, it's wonderful. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
So
as you know, my love.
Let's get to our work. So we met on a farm.
Yeah, we did.
And our friend Amy, you must have been That was after, it was like the end.
Yeah, we were. I think in the photos, maybe one of my kids has a mask
Because we were allowed to
draped
be
around their
outside.
necks.
It was
But
an
yeah,
outside event,
but I think
but it was like the cusp of like
yeah.
starting to get back into things. And I decided to write a cookbook a billion years ago, but I never started it. I'm going to do a things I wish I knew about writing a book. Christ, that'll be another one. But I reached a point over COVID. It was just after that I was like, I think it's now or never. I'm
Yeah.
going to give it a shot. I'm going to push this boulder down the hill and hire some people. And originally, I had hired a graphic designer who was going to do photography as well.
Yes.
And he lived in Toronto and he was going to do all this stuff. And now in hindsight, Christ, what a pain in the ass that would have been.
We talked about it. You would have been.
It would have
definitely.
been the amount of, because you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
I had no idea the amount of work cooking the food would be and how to time it. Anyway, he ended up not being able to do the photography. He had to go remote to Malta to take care of his father. And I was like, I need a photographer. And I remembered Amy and you, and we had met that one time. And I was like, I wonder if Ashleigh would do it, because Ashleigh and I live in the same city, very close. And I sent you a message. I don't even remember what I said in that first message, but I was like, hey.
Well, we did the little test photos
Oh,
for your book.
Yes. So originally I had signed with a literary agent. Yes. So I signed.
That was a while before though, so I understand. Like
it was.
Yeah, it was a while before.
I signed with a literary agent, and we created a proposal.
Yeah.
For the book, what the first ideology of the book would be. No, not ideology. First edition.
You're out.
You know what I'm saying? I'm out. I gotta go. All right, guys. See you later. That's it for me.
I was just waiting for her to flop one.
Like, that's not the right word at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll find the word when this is done. But I needed
dub it over.
Do it in a male like robot voice. Idiom or whatever.
Exactly.
So I needed to submit 5 recipes.
Yes.
Within this proposal. So I wrote to you and I was like, hey, would you take pictures?
Yeah.
And I remember I said, I want it to be messy. And you were like, dear God.
I struggled with that.
It was like, I don't know what I mean. And I was like, I had a vision for the book and I wanted it to be very kid, messy, chaos, whatever.
And that, I will be perfectly honest, that first, and it's probably why it maybe didn't hit.
No, oh my God. Yeah, you're the reason, Ashleigh.
No,
You're the reason.
I think I just didn't, we came so far is my point. It's like, it's funny from that initial concept.
Yeah.
And it had to happen the way it happened.
For sure.
My point.
I also didn't know what I wanted until I kind of saw what I didn't want. And that's just life in general, right? You don't know what you want until you see.
Well, I still remember us like sending each other, before we started working, we'd go to the chapters or Indigo.
Yeah.
The cookbook section.
Totally.
And send each other terrible photos of cookbooks and be like, what even is this?
Totally.
So then we just knew we didn't want that.
Yeah, but I hadn't hired you then. So, so I hired her for these 5 photos, sent it off, and then we started pitching. My agent and I started pitching to different agencies, and it wasn't landing, and or they had something that was like similar or whatever, and I kind of just felt like I was hounding this guy and chasing him down, and eventually it was like, I think I'd signed with him for about 6 weeks. And I was like, I sat down with Lou and I was like, I think I can do this by myself, like, cause I had always thought, and that'll be in that episode, but I always thought you needed a publisher.
Yeah.
I absolutely had to have a publisher to publish a book.
Again, it's these like preconceived notions of the steps you have to take.
Totally. And you learn once you're in it. But I was like, I think I could just do this myself. I have a little bit of a following, like I'm going to try and do this on my own. So that's when after I found out about Joe and he had to be away, I reached out to you and was like, would you do a cookbook? And you were like, I've never done it.
I know.
But it's basically just, 80 blogs.
Yeah. Literally without the process shots, which is great because those are the ones that kill you.
It's true.
Slow death.
So Ashleigh and I set up a studio in my house.
Yeah.
And
well, we had a very tough timing situation. So this was the thing. Originally, when she first came to me, I was like, how are we going to make this work? Because because of the timing with what happened with Joe. Yeah. You were up against the wall. You'd already been pushed. You were supposed to have started 3 weeks prior to that. Yes. We were nearing the end of the school year. I have 2 young kids. You have a young child. My kids weren't young, but my youngest still needed to be picked up from school and she was going to be home, right?
For sure.
So we definitely felt this like impending timeline we were like, we have to get this rolling.
Self-imposed, by the way.
Yes.
But I wanted to release at Christmas.
Exactly. That was the plan. So we thought like, how are we going to manage this?
Yeah.
And it just, the best way was to just literally move everything I own into your house.
Yeah, to create the studio here for sure, and then
and it was clutch. And I left everything. I brought every prop I owned, every
Yep.
plate, every bowl, every cup,
Yep.
every cutting board, backdrops,
Everything.
We set everything up. We basically just moved my life into your house.
Yeah.
And it really did, it, it, it created it so that we could bang out 3, 4, or 5 recipes a day.
And we did.
And we
We
did.
did. We went
crushed it.
originally, yeah, we would go to Indigo and like look up, because that was a thing too. It's like, what do you want this book to look
I
like,
know.
right? Like, how is this going to come to fruition? What are we going to do? So we would go and look at cookbooks,
Yeah.
look at the different ways. And I didn't like certain things
Yeah.
and I liked other things. And then we would go to Home Sense
Yeah.
and like
props out.
and
we
go to
did.
Value Village and
Yeah.
thrift different like, and I didn't
Yeah.
understand scale. I really
Mhm.
didn't understand how tiny the
Everything
dishes
is.
need to be.
I know. That's one thing people don't ever think about. Is
No.
props. You don't want anything shiny.
Nope.
Shiny is bad in
Nothing
photos.
shiny. Spray, but like
Yeah.
nothing shiny, nothing large because the distance from, but
And
that's
also, like, you in your own terms, like, you don't want to be spending so much money on ingredients. You want to be making a full
totally.
recipe if you don't need to. You want to like have less, you know. So like think about obviously a bowl of soup. If it's you don't want to use the entire
For
pot
sure.
of soup in one bowl.
For sure.
You want to be able to
Yeah.
smart about it, right? Less waste.
So we created a schedule where it was like
Yeah.
the week before we would plan the week
It
ahead.
was really fun.
And it was like
We had
5
inspiration images
totally. Yeah. We had a whole,
for each recipe.
yeah. Yeah. That was in that, what was that? Asana? Was that
No, it was like began with a T.
some other
Trello or something
yeah,
like
some
that.
other program where I would upload
Yeah.
like I like this, like what's a
Yeah.
like, what's and that's the thing too. Like this is why
Yeah.
you hire a photographer, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a flat
Or you would
lay and
suggest a flat lay, and I'd be like, I don't think so. We want to see the height here, and you're not gonna be able to see
For
the height.
sure.
And you're like, oh yeah, okay, front view of this one.
yeah, but
You
then
know.
like within the book we couldn't have too many flat lays,
Yeah,
like
we have to be really conscientious, or like backdrops, like you
So-
know, like did we use this backdrop too much? What
Yep.
did we use this for last time?
Yeah.
You know?
and then we would just bang it out. And it
Mhm.
was like, so we shot 82 recipes and I think it was like 26 days or
Yeah.
something. Like that's what it was. And it was when, remember, it was when all the fires were happening
Yes.
in Canada and the
so
world, basically. So
there.
I would get up first thing in the morning and go to Freshco
Yeah.
because they opened at 7
Yeah.
in the summer. And sometimes I'd have to, because that was a lot of planning too. I had to source all the stuff
Yeah.
and then
All your
come home
ingredients, all
and
your fresh stuff.
cook everything.
Yeah.
And then Ashley would show up and we would shoot. It was like,
A
that was
well-oiled machine.
the best part of the cookbook. Like I did everything in tandem. I was writing and editing and doing everything in tandem, but being able to have that, which I'm sure is a big part of the reason why you love it, is like the creativity of what is this going to look like?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do today?
Yeah.
We have spaghetti and meatballs.
I know.
What do we see?
I
Is
know.
it a pot for this? Is it a plate? Is there a fork?
So we had a line that, and actually I still use that mug all the time, but we constantly found ourselves standing hunched over, because we're both very tall, hunched over the computer, and we'd look at it, we're like, hate it?
I don't hate
I
it.
don't hate it. Could that summarize us more as individuals? Really, not fully pessimistic,
put
but
them
a
up.
little bit. And so
Sure.
when at the end of it, when she gave me a nice little thank you gift, I got a mug that said, I don't hate it.
I don't hate
And I
it.
laughed till I cried.
It was so
beautiful.
hard to kind of definitively
Yeah.
fuck with shit forever.
We
and,
did.
And you must want
And we
to.
did,
I'm
yeah.
sure when you do shots
Yeah.
or different blogs and
Yeah.
whatever, you could literally
Take her
move something
and
inch for
my husband always says to me, because he'll sit outside of the studio and he'll just hear the flash going bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing. And I'll come out and he's like, what could possibly? It's not moving.
You don't even know.
The food is not, the food's not moving, babe. And I'm like, I know, but I'm moving. Babe.
We have
Because that napkin was being a real bitch today.
always. We have
Yeah.
a whole folder of like my hand
Yes.
tweezers
Or her
moving, like,
hair, like the back of my
unusual
tattoos
or
and stuff.
something
Yeah.
in the way.
It is. And I mean, now I work for projects. I usually have a food stylist, and it's amazing to have somebody who understands the nuances.
Sure.
Those, I love not having to think about that.
For-
Yeah, I have so many photos of her just like blowtorching some like sandwich or something, trying to like melt the cheese perfectly.
But that's the thing too.
Yeah.
Like, all of these things I had no idea about, which I'm sure you also learned as you're going. You're like, I'm going to need a blowtorch.
Yeah.
I'm going to need
a hair dryer in my studio to melt chocolate chip, because that's what we do.
We did.
Yeah,
We did a lot of that
we did a
stuff.
lot of that stuff.
Throw a Lego piece in there.
Yeah.
Much to Ashley's
That was new. That was new for me.
So if you haven't read my cookbook or seen the cookbook, there's like little Easter eggs throughout of like kids stuff, kids toys, tiny shish kebab.
Just quiet for 1 second. Like day one, we're shooting and I'm standing there in the studio and she said, I'll be back in a minute. She wasn't back in a minute. And I'm like, what is she doing? And she came into the room with a tiny little Lego farmer. And she's like, I got it. I got it. And I was like, what in the actual fuck are we talking about right now? And she shoved that little farmer into the photo and put like a stalk of like green onion in his palm. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna let you go.
It's true.
And let you do what you do.
We would sit there and it would be like a beautiful layout and whatever. And I'd be like, you know what it needs? A piece of Play-Doh.
Yeah.
And it needs some Play-Doh peas.
She's like, hey, I'm gonna make a small hamburger out of Play-Doh. Give me 10 minutes. And I'm like,
perfect, because River was young enough to still have like tiny little
and that's what we
things.
talked about. If you had been in this position to go into the city every day,
into the other studio,
you wouldn't have had the opportunity to rifle around and
It'd be
look for the most random things.
It'd be a completely different book, which was so lucky.
And so I do think our moms get a shout out with their shared birthday, and they're leaving us entirely too young.
Oh, the worst
club to be a part of, but brought us together, and
now we have
this we have this little baby together.
So we did the cookbook, and then what kind of happened for you after that? Did you
well, or did I haven't. I've actually I've had a few inquiries of cookbooks. They're not.
Would you do another cookbook?
Yeah, I would. I really love it. The only thing that I think about is like having you was such a huge part of it that I really don't think I could do it on my own.
Right.
I mean, I could if I didn't have a timeline. You know, if it was just like, well, it'll take forever.
But
if I needed to like really kind of get it done, I'd need help, right? They're pretty big. They're pretty big undertakings, as you've discussed. They're not an easy thing to crank out. But it was funny, after that job, after the cookbook, I got a random inquiry from a studio in the city to shoot like a campaign for a Canadian sandwich shop. And it was so funny because I was like, it was such a fast thing. Their photographer had fallen through, and this guy got my name through a referral or something like that. And I went in and met him and toured this like 80,000 square foot facility in the city. It was like huge. And I'm wandering around and he's showing me where we're going to shoot. And the shoot's like 2 days from now. Like it was so fast. Marketing, rep or whatever was going to be there. So the client's going to be there and the marketing rep. And it's like a whole team of people, stylists and art directors and all this stuff. And I remember leaving thinking, it was my first time shooting. I mean, obviously I'd been on a million photo shoots, but it was my first time as a food photographer, as like the photographer. And I remember driving home and I was like, how funny is that? Like I used to always think all those years modeling were not a waste. They have a waste.
Right.
Well, like just trying to like look pretty in front of pictures. It's really not that. It's not the most amazing career. But what a gift, because it gave me so much confidence. I knew exactly what it was like to be on a set. I knew exactly what it was like to, make your selects and have a client look over your shoulder, because I've been present during those moments,
Right.
So many times. And that was like a full circle moment for me. And it was the fact that I'd just come off of this book working closely with somebody, whereas usually I was a solo act, you know, and I'd just been in a collaborative mood for the last 2 months or whatever. And I was like, it was just so funny, the timing of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it felt very serendipitous. And I was like, okay, there you go. Like it was funny how, and so I do think all those like little moments that maybe you don't realize, they kind of.
So what future-wise do you want to do?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think?
That's a really good question. I definitely love the cookbook thing. I think I'm well suited for that kind of level of creativity, but also like I'm pretty pragmatic in how I approach things. So I feel like, and I think some people might look at it as a negative, but I feel like, so you're supposed to have a style as a photographer. Like it's a big deal to like find your voice. And like, is it her? Like, you're going to know it's her photo.
Harvest, whatever. Like moody and dark and flat light.
And people see a photo and they know it's hers. Yeah. And while that's all fine and good, I do think that for me, I don't love being trapped in a box.
Yeah.
And it might be a disadvantage in some respects. Maybe that's, it's like when they tell you to niche down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't make me niche down. I've had like 100 careers,
Yeah.
I want to do all the things.
It's true.
So I definitely, while I don't prefer light and bright photography, so we're talking like a white background with like white props and maybe like a little piece of wood here or something, I prefer a little more high impact color vibrancy.
Is that the one that I don't like?
You don't
with the hard shadow.
Well, you don't love it. Yeah. You don't love a, hard light image.
Yeah.
I don't mind a hard light image.
But sometimes.
But I think what you don't like is it almost feels like cold in a way, like in that even though it's such hard light, everything's very stark.
Yeah.
and very like the shadows are super sharp.
Yeah.
There's no diffusion and there's
If you're
no
doing like
yeah.
a pop can.
Yeah, it works for certain
Totally.
it works for certain aesthetics. And it's funny, if you're not a photographer, I don't think you realize it, but you're consuming content all the time.
Yeah,
And you probably have a very strong understanding of what resonates with you.
for sure.
What you're drawn
Even
to.
if you're not
Even if you're not a
conscious of it,
photographer,
yeah.
you're not conscientious of it. It's even like how like I don't love doing video,
Yeah.
but I naturally have like developed an ability to edit things because I watch enough
Yeah.
that I know those beats, you know?
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing this, you understand.
Yeah,
Like I'll show a video to my husband. He's like, "Oh, that part feels a little bit long," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I felt that too."
right.
Because you naturally pick
For
up
sure.
those cues and
Yeah.
stuff, right? So I think I do love that I have an ability to kind of, I don't want to say like morph because that feels a little disingenuous to my brand or whatever, but I'm good at finding an aesthetic and like working within that. Like
Yeah.
if, you know, a blogger will shoot me a message and be like, "Hey, you know, I love your work, you know, this is my style, this is what I have." And I'll look on the site and I'll be like, "Okay, yeah, I can make my
Emulate
stuff
that. Yeah.
emulate that. I can have my images flow into what they already
I wanted
are
to
drawn
see it
to.
once.
Some Lego pieces randomly put into the bowl.
One of the images.
Hear me out, hear me out. Hear me out. How about a Scrabble board? Yeah,
wait.
yeah. How about I just say poop with Scrabble?
So many times
Yeah.
I would put something in it and she'd be like, okay, but like, do we need this one?
Can we do an alternate? Can we shoot an alternate? Can we
not.
can we just throw another option in the mix? Can you take a napkin and remove shit from the side of the bowl? No.
Listen, you got
I don't.
all of the alcohol, I feel
Yeah.
was like not as fart driven.
No, it wasn't. That chapter was pretty classy.
One or two of them were classy at the very least.
But yeah, so I think that's been something I've had to come to terms with is that while everyone tells you to niche down,
You
I
don't want
think
to.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I think I like being able to, like, there's obviously styles that I'm drawn to and that I tend to shoot for myself, but
Yeah.
I never like, I'll never have a blogger come to me and I'll be like, "Oh, I can't do that."
Yeah,
You know, it's
Yeah.
just not, it's not my,
you'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. And I think I've worked for enough variety of clientele that I can kind of pivot,
Yeah.
you know, recalibrate and find
Recalibrate the circle.
day.
Would you write a cookbook?
No, no, I wouldn't.
All right. Okay. The end.
Yeah, at the end of that. No, I'm not a recipe developer.
Yeah.
No,
It's not
I have tremendous respect for you. I have
Yeah.
tremendous respect for my friends that are bloggers. As you know, I've obviously like baked them up. Seriously, go support them. No, they're not even paying me to do this, but maybe I should. Maybe that's my calling. I just
There it is.
I was championing the
Be a
blog.
hype girl for
I really am. But I know what
No
goes
interest,
into
yeah.
it, and that's not really my thing. I have had people reach out and ask about, you know, workshops or mentoring.
yeah.
And you know, I like to talk. So I have done a few
This is our
as the person, as everybody is like literally just tuned out ages ago.
No.
Nobody's listening now. But I do love to be of service.
That would be a great
I
idea.
do love helping people, and I do have people reach out and be like, "Oh my God, what is going on? Why is this photo
Yeah.
gray? Blah blah blah." And it's fun for me to be like, "Huh, let's break this down.
Yeah.
What's your process?"
So if you were, okay, so let's say I'm just, Joe Schmo. I want to start my own family blog.
Mm.
I want to get a camera. Do I need a camera? Can I shoot it with my phone?
There's a lot of successful bloggers right now that are shooting with their phone. I think the difference is that they have found a way to establish themselves.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know right now. Right now is so competitive that it might be trickier to break in with just a handheld, like a phone situation. I do think images, I mean, just think about how you, the viewer, listener, how do you engage with content?
Yeah.
You know, when you're looking for a recipe to make for your family
sure.
and you're on Google,
Yeah.
are you gonna choose the recipe that looks
sure.
delicious or the recipe that kind of looks a little flat and dull and the
Breakfast
food looks
option.
kind of gross?
They've changed their format, so I need to supply B-roll ahead of time now. And I'm like, I don't have a fucking, like, I got to shoot it with my phone and it looks like trash. I'll tell you.
Oh, that's no good.
I'm just letting you know, it does
Yeah.
not look great.
I know,
But
it's hard. It's hard.
It's super hard.
I think for video, iPhones are actually, I think those videos get better
Yeah,
results.
sure, for sure.
That feel,
Absolutely.
I haven't been able to figure it out because we don't have enough sun here. So I never want to shoot videos with natural light because I feel like I'm handcuffed. Plus I have 2 cats, which, you know, obviously gross. But these people that are just, you know, on their countertops and they're just like with the sun shining in, I mean, it looks amazing.
Sure.
where do you live? I don't live there.
No.
You know, I don't,
No.
I don't got what you got going on. It's the first time I've seen the sun in like weeks.
It's true.
Um,
Also, direct light's not great.
yeah, it can be tricky. You
It's
know, you
really
get a
not.
lot of shadows, and I just think
This is the
being
nuance of
able to
photography.
hide in my studio
Yeah.
is a luxury for me.
Yeah.
But I do think like, yeah, if you're gonna start a blog right now, you have to
Even if it's just for you, let's say you
yeah,
want to take some cute photos.
you want to take
Would
some
you suggest getting a nice camera?
uh
Maybe on Marketplace?
I would say start with something you don't need the best camera.
Yeah.
And I think that's like if you talk to any professional food photographer or anything, they'll tell you that it's never the gear. Like the gear is not going to make you better. It will help. It can facilitate. There are things you can do
Yeah.
that will help your process, like tethering. I don't know. It's like a technical term for people that don't know, but that's just simply having a cord that connects from your camera
Mhm.
and connects to your computer so that as soon as you shoot a photo, that pops up on a large screen. And for food photography, it's a really important
That was
step,
critical for the
critical for
cookbook.
us, so that we could see the layout and you can get that because on that tiny little screen, if it even
Yeah.
has a flip up screen, some cameras don't, you need to be able to see what you're shooting because you'll be really mad if you look at those photos and they're out of focus later
Yeah.
on. That'll
Yeah.
kill you. Tethering's a huge part. Actually, you know, like I thought was approached recently by a gear company to see if like there's some way we can like connect on that because I think there's a lot of value in helping people understand what gear you can use and what
Totally.
you don't need, you know.
For sure.
But yeah, if you want to get a camera and start small and if you like it and
Yeah.
if you actually use it, then you upgrade, you
Would you
know?
buy a flash separate?
No, I would start with daylight.
Yeah.
I would start shooting with daylight first. Flash is a beast, you know. For me, my process was very like I had no money. I mean, it was COVID.
Yeah.
I had been working at a television studio prior as a makeup artist, and I was doing decently there. So I had a little bit of a stash saved up, but you
Mhm.
know, COVID came and we didn't have, you know,
Yeah.
endless income. It was tough. So I think I kept it very small and
Yeah.
I only slowly builded everything up. And I think you know, it forces you to get creative.
Mm.
It forces you to like learn.
You're really going to learn that.
You're really going to learn it,
Yeah.
right? Before you think that you need the bigger flash or the
For
better
sure.
camera or whatever.
It's like
Like
when you
I
join a
still have
sport,
the same camera.
get everything.
Yeah, exactly. I still have the same camera that my husband bought me as a Christmas present, Christmas 2020 or 2020,
Oh.
like right after I started. Because I had been using an old camera, like I mentioned, and it was a crop sensor, which means it like naturally is almost like zoomed in, like you don't get the
Okay.
full frame or whatever. And so then I put a 50 millimeter on that, and that combination was ridiculous. Yeah, like if I wanted to shoot food, I had to be on like my ceiling to get a flat
For sure.
light. I was like hanging from like the
A
light in my
50
kitchen.
millimeter lens can't
Yeah,
like, zoom
there's
out.
nothing.
No zoom out.
Just you're just right there. And I remember being like, what am I doing? You know, and like my husband would find me like balancing on like a chair and he's like, you're gonna die. So I'm gonna upgrade your camera. And I think, you know, I still love that camera.
Yeah.
Like I could have upgraded ages ago.
Sure.
But I'm like, well, why bother? You know, like I don't want to say the gear makes the difference.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
No, for sure.
The YouTube makes a difference.
YouTube for sure.
Sitting down, doing the work, figuring out why something isn't
Yeah.
what you want it to be
Yeah.
is the difference, you know?
I think being maybe just like this is another full circle, just with your whole life and then this lesson with like photography. It's like get curious, maybe see
Yeah.
it may not end up exactly where you thought, or you
Yeah.
may not shoot the thing exactly the way that you had in your head, but the more you do it, the better you
Yeah.
get at it.
Yeah.
See if it's really
It's just
something.
about doing the thing.
It's always
It's
about
always
doing
about
the
you
thing.
don't need the gear. I think so many times, you know, you'll sit there and think, oh, if I just had this, or if I just had that, it would be so much better. If I could just afford this, or I'm proof that that's not true.
Clarity
Because
comes
I
in
literally
shooting.
did not have anything.
Yeah.
And I'll share photos from the very beginning, and they were
Sometimes we do
terrifying.
that. Every once in a while, I
Yeah.
go back in my camera and look. It's just the worst photos ever.
Really bad.
And then I'll send them to Ashley and I'm like, look at this. Can you believe this?
So I would say, yeah, we were talking about flash. Like, I don't think you need flash. It took me a long time before I upgraded to flash. I think daylight can be great.
Mhm.
Indirect light, if you're just starting out.
Yep.
You want your light source only coming from one direction is a
Mhm.
huge key. So like even if you know you made a dinner and it looks really great and there's no natural light in your kitchen, you know, like
Shoot it in
don't
front of a dinner.
yeah, like try to put it in front of a window if there's a little bit of light coming in. Now it's a little easier, lights out a little bit later. But we don't want overhead light,
Mhm.
this light, that light. You know, you don't
Yeah.
want a ton of different directions for light. You want to keep it from one light source. So make sure if you're shooting with natural light, throw off all your lights in here and just have the one source coming from one side.
I think you doing a little program is an excellent idea.
Oh, thank you.
I think you could totally sell like a workshop, like
I think
photography.
I think I just like
Couple
the
videos.
idea of Um, and like I said, being of service.
We're
Like
launching it now, guys. You heard it here first. Ashleigh Scott.
oh, they tuned out ages ago.
Just shoot her a message. Just shoot her a message. They teach me privately.
Yeah, I do house calls. But that's the hard part too, is it's like, I did a Zoom call with my friend and I was desperately, she was needing help with her tethering or something. And I'm trying to like all these other elements, right? Like that's a whole other hurdle is like, how are we setting this up so you can see what I'm doing so that, I'm able to broadcast this information to you. And that's definitely a hurdle right now. Like
YouTube.
to wrap my head around
YouTube
that, Yeah, exactly.
You'll learn on YouTube.
So I think I'm just like right now, I'm like, it's a little daunting at the idea.
So what are you going to tell people as the last thing?
It's an apology.
We're so sorry.
We're so sorry to have
really just wasted your time.
Yeah, wasted fully. Yeah. I mean, you probably didn't learn. You learned a lot of stuff you didn't need to know. Things I should knew before I turned into this podcast. No, I would say
it doesn't have to be about photography.
No, it doesn't have to be about photography. I would say, yeah, like just pivot. Oh, like, and that it's never too late to start something.
Absolutely. You don't have to. What was I, 43 when I put this cookbook out?
Yeah.
And you started.
And you never know. Yeah. You never know where something will take you. I'll just say an aside. I was just watching Jamie Oliver there's like
I totally want to watch it.
Did you? Yeah. So, and there was just like a moment in there where he talks about his start and it was such like an organic, random moment that shaped his life completely.
Yeah.
And I think if you're open, those moments happen more easily.
Say yes to things.
Say yes to things, and it's a great life lesson. And like I said, when I started Ashleigh's Makeover, I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, I was using my phone. I'd never picked up a camera and I'd had a camera for all those years and I didn't really know how to use it. And I literally was like, how do I shoot in manual?
Yeah.
And now 5 years later. So
here we are.
Here we are.
Thanks so much, Ashleigh.
Oh, thanks for having me.